Hello everybody, this is War Story Video Blog. I'm Alex and here is James Lien, collector of German Imperial period presentation swords. Hello James, nice to see you here.
Good seeing you.
And you have good display of presentation swords, and 4 of them I would like to buy. And could you explain about all these items, because I know a lot of history behind of them.
My pleasure. Let's start with the infantry officer model 89. The first thing that you see here is that it's not like the standard pattern. Standard pattern has a plain blade, a little smaller blade, a nickel blade. This is a chiseled handle. And the thing that strikes you, and I'll have to ask you, the thing that strikes me, the condition is just immaculate. It looks like it was made recently. The gold is just in superb condition on the front and the back. Everything you'd want. So it pops and stands out so much because of the condition. And I always consider 3 things in swords. That would be the design, the condition, and the story. This one has a story because on the blade you have the name Hoffman, and you have the regiment von Lutzow. Von Lutzow is from a well-known leader in the Napoleonic War. He led a group of volunteers against Napoleon. Then after the war, this regiment was incorporated into the Imperial German Army and became Infantry Regiment number 25. So we have 2 really valuable pieces of information about doing research on the sword, in that you have the man's name, Hoffman, which is rather common, but we have a regiment that he was in. And so with those 2 bits of information, we can find out his whole career. And so that's what I did. I went to the rank list of the Prussian Army, and I was able to find out that he was in sure enough, in the Infantry Regiment number 25 for a very long time, 20-some years. And then he became a major, and he transferred over to Infantry Regiment number 169 shortly before World War I, in approximately 1913. In 1913, he went to the Infantry Regiment number 169 as a major. With that information, I purchased and found a book from the internet on Infantry Regiment number 169, and he was actually in the book in an action where he was killed. Mm-hmm. So we have his entire career, then we have his transfer to another regiment, and then in the Aaron rank list, which covers the First World War, it states in there that he's killed, and then we get the infantry history for 169, and he's right in there. So it's very, very satisfying. You know exactly what he did, and he was a major in this book, so we know it's the right one. And there was only one major in Infantry Regiment number 169. So it's very, very satisfying for a collector. Historical.
And next one, on this display is Ulan?
You want to talk about the Schäßburg Tannheim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a very interesting story, and in the beginning of video it's
Okay, well, you jump to the top of the Four Swords. This is a cavalry regiment, and you will see a different style handle. It's a lion head grip, handle, and that is very common for presentation cavalry swords.
And could you tell for our subscribers what year model of this sword?
Well, that actual model was used for a long time because this was all private purchase. So unlike this, which is a regulation that came out, a regulation pattern sword, which came out in 1889, hence it's called the IOD, or Infantry Officer Degen 89. This one was a private purchase, and that for presentation, and it was used, there was no 1 year. You could use this instead of the regimental assigned model. So that was allowed. It was just, and the officers really liked this model, and so it's common for presentations.
And what can we say about this sword and about this name here? Because a lot of information on the blade.
The three things that I said I'll look for in the sword is first the design, the second the condition, and the third is the story. So with this one, you have the design, you have the on the blade, which is acid etched Damascus, you have a banner which gives you a lot of information. So now you can do a lot of research. The more information, the better. Some swords have parts of information, such as the name of the individual, but it doesn't. It will leave off the name of the regiment, or it will have the name it will have a name in the year, for example. This one has the name, the year, and the regiment. So now you're really able to do a lot of research. And it's a good thing that they did put it all on, because he turns out to be have a terrific story. Now the other thing on the back, you will see there is a list of the names of the officers that presented this sword to the officer departing, that's described on the front. It is rare to have the list of the names of all the officers on the back of the blade. They command a high price whenever you have that. So going to the front, it's saying we have the information that he's departing the regiment. So it was a common thing at that time to give some kind of gift to an officer. Of course, this is only officers, not enlisted, to give a gift. So it could be one of several things. It could be a Wappenteller, which would have all the coats of arms of the officers in the regiment and all the names of the officers in the regiment. It could be and often is, a bronze statue in various shapes depending on the regiment, and you would be in the shape of in this case, maybe a standing figure of a hussar officer, and it's on a pedestal, and they would have the same kind of description on the front plate, stating that here is a gift to a departing officer, give his name, and give the name of the regiment, and hopefully the year. They don't always do it, but it's really nice to have the years on there. More information, the better. And then some of these, not very many, but it's not common. Once in a while, you will find a silver plaque on the back with the names of the officers, just similar to this. And of course, that's the ones you want. The more information, the better. And it looks really sexy to have all the names of the officers. Now, by the way, with the names of officers, I'll just throw in that normally I have found that on the list of names, it starts with the commander of the regiment, then the majors or sub officers, and it goes down Rittmeister, Leutnant, Oberleutnant, Leutnant, and so forth. So when you go to the rank list, it will match pretty much this. You can just go straight down, and it makes it very nice and easy. But there's an asterisk in that there are people that come and go in the regiment. So the rank lists are published in May 1 of each year, approximately. And so you don't know when this sword was, whenever the sword was given, is probably not going to match May 1st. So there would be some alterations in there. There might be an officer or two that aren't on there and some that, so there is a little discrepancy, but it's pretty much in order. So getting back to Mr. Lieutenant Schäsberg Tannheim, what I did was go to the year of the last year. Here is 1910 to 1914. So you go to 1914 when he's departing, and the first date, of course, is when he entered the regiment. He departs in 1914, which is, of course, a significant date. The war started in 1914. He certainly wouldn't have been leaving after the war started in August, so he departed sometime before August of 1914. So I have copied a copy of the rank list for the Ulan Regiment number 19, which is a Württemberg regiment. And here is, sure enough, here is his name. And his name appears here, Julius Graf von Schäsberg-Tannheim, which is wonderful because now we know his first name, which doesn't appear on the sword. Then I went to the honor rank list, which gives what the person did during World War I, 1914, 1918. And it shows here, interestingly enough, that Julius Graf von Schäsberg-Tannheim is in parentheses. If he had left during the year completely and never returned to the regiment, he would not be on this list. But his name is in parentheses with the date 19/6/14 reserve. So we know that he left in June, June of 1914, July, August. So it's about, the war started about 2 months after he left. So he returned, is in parentheses, and that's terrific information. So what I next did is I Googled him, which is a terrific reference tool these days. And I found a website that one of the forums for military collectors, and I find that Julius Graf von Schäsberg is a flyer in World War I.
Observer.
And so, of course, I was elated. He started out as an Ulan, and he becomes a flyer, but that's how a huge amount of the officers in the Flying Corps started in the cavalry regiments.
It's the same in Russia. A lot of pilots first served in Ulans and in cavalry because it was brave guys. Because you have to be a brave guy to fly in the start of 20th century.
Absolutely. Yeah. So here, and I'm going to give you all this information. Here's the website, and it says that Hermann Goering was the pilot on a mission, and Scheesberg, Julius Graf von Scheesberg, was the observer, riding as an observer that day, and
he's seated right back,
right in the back, and he downed a French aircraft, and it says that Hermann Goering flew after they shot it down. Let's see, let me read this instead of trying to paraphrase it. They downed a Caudron, a French aircraft, and forced it to land within German lines and observed its capture by ground personnel. Hermann Goering flew back to his base at Stenay and requisitioned a car to take him to Caudron site and picked up the 2 French crew, presented them to General Hans von Zwei, and had this incident photographed. It was also noted that the German had taken Caudron, the French plane had taken 12 hits, but that Hermann Goering was not armed and had not fired a shot, but this was always regarded as his second victory. So he got he shared the kill with Scheesberg Tannheim, who obviously is the one that shot down the aircraft. So then I did further research in another website. It shows, the website is called Front Flieger. It shows here, if you look at the bottom, information about the war, and at the bottom it lists that Julius von Scheesberg Tannheim received the Württemberg Military Verdienstorden on 9/12/1916. The victory was on March 14th of 16. The award was December of 16. I believe it was for this action that he received it. And the Württemberg Military Verdienstorder is the highest military award by the Kingdom of Germany. It's their equivalent of our Medal of Honor or the Prussian Pour le Mérite. So he got the equivalent of the Blue Max. Here is a
coat of arms of.
This is his coat of arms
Of his family.
And then I kept researching, and I found that there was a book called The Knights of the Black Cross, and I'm going to send you that book. Had a picture of him, and I was excited to see what he looked like. And here's a picture from the book showing him. It's Scheesberg Tannheim. He's this one right here. And there's the Crown Prince in the middle, and just a cast of famous flyers. Bruno Lotzer was a very famous flyer, became very famous in World War II also, a very good friend of Goering. But if you look here, it gives the name of the different officers, and they're standing around the Crown Prince, and they're all in their wartime uniforms. And so, pretty good company.
Yes.
Then I discovered that he is listed in a very famous group of books about Imperial German flyers that received bravery awards in World War I. And I wanted to see if he is listed in that book. In the books, rather, they're a 6-volume set, and lo and behold, he was. And here is a picture of him in that book as well, or a picture of a crash, and it talks about, there was a caption on it that reads, "Crash of Lieutenant Ryman and Graf von Scheesberg."
And this is his aircraft.
That's his aircraft. And it says that Lieutenant Ryman was killed on August 22nd, and my copying wasn't so great, so it's blurred out. So it was a training facility. This is all Württemberg, which is the cavalry regiment, as you recall, is a Württemberg cavalry regiment. the Julius von Schäßberg-Tannheim, who as an instructor was riding in the rear cockpit, so he was a pilot instructor. Says below, next to that, von Schäßberg-Tannheim earned the Knight's Cross of the Württemberg Military Verdienst Order, but it says also that in his pre-war service days he received the gold medal of that same order when he was in the cavalry in 1915. So now we really have an incredible story. One of we've got a sword, the most highly decorated, who received the highest decoration for bravery from the King of Württemberg, and he also, as a pilot, and he also received the gold medal of that same order when he was a cavalry officer earlier in the war. So, what more could you want?
That is not end of the story.
No, because what I did Neil's books, in the appendix, it lists known recipients of the Württemberg Gold Merit Medal, and it shows, again, Oberleutnant Julius Graf von Schäßberg-Tannheim. So, while I've had, on occasion, seen dealers state things that pumped up some item they had, and you don't know whether to believe it or not. I bring the documentation to say this was a surprise to me that I found so much information online, and there's only one Oberleutnant Julius Graf von Schäßberg-Tannheim. It's so unusual a name. There's not another one.
Yeah, and it's
so
100% it's him.
100%. Now, interestingly enough, he had a brother who was also a pilot, and he also received a bravery award from the Kingdom of Württemberg, and his name was Rudolf. That's kind of nice to have. Not only is the sword receiving high bravery awards, but his brother's a pilot as well, and he received the Knight's Cross first and second class with swords to Württemberg Free Record. It's a bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, I did some genealogy research about Julius. Since he was a Graf, noble family, they have books in Germany about the Gotha, the royal family, the noble families. So that makes it easier to research, and we show that he had. Here is the father and mother, and they have 4 sons. The first one was Peter, the second one was Richard, the third one, he was the third brother, and the last one was Rudolf. Rudolf, the younger brother, was the one that received an award too, was a pilot. When you Google the name Schäßberg-Tannheim, and you did that, you
yesterday.
looked it up, you got the name of Richard. His older brother.
He was sportsman in Olympic Games.
Exactly. He won a medal in the Olympics, the Olympic Games for equestrian. It turns out that the owner of the sword, Julius, was also an equestrian. He was obviously a comrade of Hermann Goering, and Hermann Goering made Luxor and a number of his comrades into prime personnel in the Luftwaffe in World War II. However, I don't have any record of Julius Schäßberg-Tannheim receiving any involvement with during the World War II. And in fact, it seems that he was an anti-Nazi, and if you look on the blade, there's evidence. If you look on the blade at the list of names, it has Stauffenberg, and that we don't know which one that is. Schenk von Stauffenberg, Klaus, was the leader of the plot to kill Hitler, and he was a Württemberger. I'm not saying that's Klaus. That's up to you to
maybe research.
But he is associated with the family.
I will try.
They were in the family. His family was in the cavalry regiment with Julius. So he had that contact. The Württembergers Corps were the ones that plotted against Hitler in April of '44. And Rommel, for example, was also involved in the plot. He was a Württemberger.
Yes.
So it's very interesting. One final thing that leads me to believe that Julius was not a favorite of Goering's or involved with him in World War II was that during the war, and here's that info I got online, his estate was confiscated by the Luftwaffe. So Hermann Goering, who Hermann Goering was the head of, Schäßberg's estate was confiscated by the Luftwaffe and used as for the Luftwaffe. It was an airfield. I don't think that they would, Julius would have been happy about having his estate confiscated. And I don't think if he was in good favor with Hermann Goering.
Maybe it's because of he shot that aircraft and know about it. Or maybe he told a lot.
Well, maybe you're right, but there's a lot more research you can do.
I will try.
Love that if you would let me know what you find out about his involvement in World War II.
I will try to find this information because it's interesting, and this is really real war story. We can read all these things just when we see on the blade. It's hard to say with my English, but you understand.
If you recall, I said there's the three elements to me that I look at broadly is the design, that pretty inclusive, the condition, and the story. And so you have an incredible design, the number one design, a number one condition, and a number one story. You hit a home run. What better can you do?
Yeah, that's really cool. And how long you own it?
I own this about, I would say it's approximately 10 years.
10 years?
Yep, 10 years. And the person that had it was a sword collector, but he, and I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping that he would be more of a researcher and more interested in stories, but I found that a number of people aren't as interested in the story, and it may be because they don't have the ability to research. They want to know it, but since they don't have this ability, they're buying the swords based on their beauty. And I would say 90-some% of the people that I meet that have any collection at all of Imperial German swords, and that may include people that just have one, they just think they're so incredibly good-looking pieces of art. They're just very satisfied with owning that piece of art. And I've helped some of the people do research. And this individual that owned it didn't do research. I was helping him do some research on them. And he was grateful, but he obviously didn't buy the sword for that reason, but he still had that as the pride of his collection. And so when he unfortunately died about 10 years ago, and he had put my name by the sword, and the wife contacted me, and I was able to purchase from her, and it wasn't cheap because he had put big prices by it. So, well,
Okay, thank you very much for a story about this sword, because it's really hard to find, hard to do all this research, and now we told this story to video, and it will be in YouTube along years. Yeah.